Starting a log fire all starts with the kindling. The kindling is small pieces of wood about this size, ideal for starting the fire off for the first 10 or 15 minutes. It comes from logs this size and is simply broken up using an axe very carefully into small sizes such as this, which then are placed on the fire in a pyramid style. What we do is with this small kindling we build it up very easily and neatly so it forms a pyramid style in the fire, and we're ready to go with our first stage of fire. So how much wood do we need? It depends on what size fire you've got, of course, but basically you've got about 25 pieces of kindling like this. You've then got about another 5 or 6 pieces of slightly bigger, which is around this size. And then during the evening you run on and you have another half a dozen pieces of what I call mid-size, which is sort of this. And then you move on to the full-size logs, which if I pull one out of the rack it'll fall down, but I'll show you later. So we've got basically 4 sizes of wood. The small kindling, the secondary pieces, then as we move on and the fire gets hotter, the third pieces, and then I will show you the slightly larger sections here. So we start 1, 2, 3 and end up placing on this larger size logs, and that way we will have a very nice fire. So it all starts here. So let's just recap then. Our kindling, about 25 pieces of kindling, then our secondary pieces of wood, which are this size. We would place those around this little pyramid style initially as we light the fire, and that would all burn down. You'll see that in a moment as we show you. And then we've got a mid-sized pieces, maybe 3 or 5 of these to take the fire to the next stage. And then as you can see, for an evening we'd need maybe 5 logs like this. If you start early, maybe 7 or 9, but a sort of 3 to 4 hour fire, you would use these size logs. Your log store is always near or nearby, and that's where it all starts, and that's basically going to give you a nice evening's log fire. So here's all we need to make the fire. Ash is clear, we've got our kindling at 25 pieces, we've got our mid-sized pieces there, about 5 to 10 pieces, 3 to 5 mid-size, and then in the basket here we've got 4, maybe 5 logs for a good evening's fire. Okay, let's build this now into this pyramid style and get started. So here we go. Fire lighters, standard fire lighters that you can sort of buy anywhere. That's all we need, a small piece like this. I'll break this up into maybe 3 or 4 pieces. And matches, of course, be very careful with those. And we start with the kindling. So here's the kindling. What I do is I place from here maybe 2 or 3 pieces on the bottom, like this, just crisscross them over, and place the first 2 or 3 pieces of the fire lighter just on there, placing 1 or 2 at the front that I know that I can get easily with a match, and 1 or 2 at the back, so when it fires up they light up. So I'm going to place this kindling in here now that forms a pyramid style, which I mentioned to you. Ensure that it sort of overlaps and interlocks, and that'll give you a nice basis from which the fire can burn from. Try not to load it all too much at the front, try and sort of stretch your arm in at the back. Then I'm going to place on here some of these first level branches which sit along here. They sit round. Make sure you place the ones in the back correctly and anchor them in so that they don't tumble. And you can see this all takes just a few moments. If they're a bit big, don't use them, they will be cumbersome. So there we are. I've got 5 or 6 of those mid-sized twigs in there. I've got the kindling, got the fire lighters in place, and I'm now ready to start that fire this evening. I'm going to close this up so we don't get any air rushing through and any drafts. We don't need those. Place the fire lighters carefully. Place them away from the matches. Never put fire lighters and matches together. That is asking for trouble. So I'd ask you to be very careful of that. Keep the matches way away and the fire lighters away from the fire, round the corner and safe. Close the door, and okay, having set the fire with the kindling and the lighter logs, you end up with a pyramid style fire, all now ready for lighting. The lighting procedure is strike a match and light the fire lighter, which is very easily accessible, and close the door. Let's show you how to do that. Burns properly when you start. Ensure that this vent is open and the vent at the top is open. You can either visually look and you can feel that when you close it, it closes, and when it opens, you can feel it dropping. So what we've got now is air entering through here, through the fire and up through the chimney, and it'll suck the air through and it'll cause the ignition. So simple, one match, lighting the fire lighters that are very easily accessible at the bottom of the fire here, using the kindling. There's about 25 pieces of kindling, there's about 5 or 6 pieces of slightly lighter wood, which is about this size, and it's created in a pyramid style, and then that will light the fire and allow it to burn for the first 10 to 15 minutes. In that first 10 to 15 minutes you need to be thinking about adding a few more of these and a few more of this style. So when you put 3-5 pieces of this addition, the fire is now settling and you're ready to put the larger logs on, which we'll show you in a minute. One match, one fire lighter, and the flame is now burning. Close the door slowly, make sure it latches, ensure that the top vent is open to the flue, and ensure the vents are here. If you have additional vents, you can open them here. They're not necessary at all, so I keep those closed and just allowing the air to flow through. You can start to see the light now coming. The matches, please put them away very safely, away from children, and we'll come back and show you the next thing you should be doing after 10 minutes. That'll give you a nice fire that will last throughout the evening. Okay, here's the fire now. After 5 minutes, you can see the vents at the bottom are open and the vent at the top is open. If I go slightly closer, you can see that the fire is in that pyramid shape and it's burning nicely now. And we'll come back and have a look in another 5 minutes. Nothing to do now, just keep an eye on it, get on, put the kettle on, and look forward to a nice warm cosy evening. So we're 5 minutes in. Okay, here we are 5 minutes in, and you can see we've got a roaring fire. I've not touched it at all. It's still stacked up in this pyramid shape, as you can see. Now the vents are still open. Now at this point I can start to half close this, which I will do, and I will half close this vent at the top. You can do that by knowing how, closing it fully and then coming back halfway. Now I'm going to close it fully, and you should see just, when I can hear it, just see a difference in the flame. I close this off fully. Now watch now as the flame rises. If I open this and I open this, you can actually hear the flames roaring. So after 10 minutes now, I close this off and I close this down and then open to about half or a third way, and then the heat within the wood now isn't depending on the air rushing through. It's the growth of the heat within the wood that's now going to allow it to burn slightly slower. At this point we don't need to put anything else on, and as I said to you, you need to prepare ready now to put logs of about this size on, which were the medium size, when this pyramid starts to collapse. So as this starts to collapse, and you can help it on its way by just nudging it when you come, and I'll show you that later, be prepared to put 5-6 of these logs on for the interim period of the next half an hour. Okay.